Ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking with a GOAT. Ken Dow giving you motivation for growth. 2 toes down, he keep it realer than most. He do it for the culture, that's always the goal. This is Strategic Moves with Ken Dow. This is Strategic Moves with Ken Dow.
Hey, what's up, everybody? You tuned in to another episode of Strategic Moves. I'm your host, Ken Dow. This is a place where we bring art, culture, politics, and business all together, and we do it every week right here on this channel. I bring in people that we met along the way. We talk about some of our experiences, and maybe there's something out of it that you can get that will help you in your business or your personal life. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, all I need you to do is hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notification bell as well. So, what we're going to do today, we're getting started. We decided that we're going to take this podcast on the road. We're starting a new series, and that series is called Cutting the Stigma of African American Men Voting. And what we're going to do is we're going to go around the state of Ohio, and we're going to be doing these series of barbershop talks. And then we're going to start off our first talk here in Cleveland, Ohio. I have the pleasure of coming to one of our premier barbershops here in Cleveland, sitting down with one of our premier barbershop owners, as well as he's an elected official here. We're going to talk a little bit about why African American men are having trouble voting this year, or picking out exactly who they want to vote for, and some of the issues they're having with the president. My guest today is first the owner of the barbershop that we're sitting in today, and his name is Mook Robinson, Councilman Mook Robinson. He's a councilman here in the city of Richmond Heights. Mook, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well, man. I'm glad to be part of the show, the podcast today. Thanks for inviting me. And actually, thanks for wanting to do the first podcast right here in Diamond Cut.
Oh, no, man. Thank you for having us. You've been somebody, we grew up on the same street for a little while on Kempton and that kind of thing growing up. And I knew you before everybody knew you. So I know that you've been around doing your thing for a long time, man. And I really appreciate and understand and appreciate your growth that you have. I watched you grow up. You were a young guy coming up in the neighborhood, making your way and doing the things you did here. So I really appreciate you having us here and getting us started.
Thank you.
Also, we have former councilman of City of Cleveland. He's a councilman, an author, a rapper, philanthropist, all of that kind of stuff that you can think of. And he's been fighting for African American men in our country and in this state for a long time. And that's none other than Councilman Bashir Jones. And last but not least, riding out the conversation, we have Mr. Kevin Conwell Jr. He is the owner of Wake, Hustle, and Grind. He's a marketer. He does marketing here in Cleveland. He's been doing marketing around the state and around the country. So we're going to get started with the conversation. I'm going to throw out the first question to everybody. Why do black men feel politically marginalized by both Democrat and Republican parties? Let's start with you, Luke.
Oh, wow. This is actually a kind of difficult question, to be totally honest with you. But we feel distance from what's going on because of some of our issues. It just seems like we're crying out loud to people, and we speaking out loud, and we telling people where we need to be, where we want to be. But our voices just don't seem like they're being heard by anybody, from Republicans or Democrats. It's like we just out here learning how to swim on our own.
What makes Mook special, constantly special, not only is he now an elected official, but he is dealing with everyday people as a barbershop owner. And if you ever want to hear like how black people are feeling for real with no chaser, it's the barbershop talk. That's why it's so important that you're doing this here. And most people feel like the politicians only come around when it's time for an election. They don't see them anymore. They don't feel them any other place. And they surely don't feel like their issues are being addressed. We look around and see other groups and other communities that are getting there, but when it comes to black people, and especially black men, we don't feel the same. Many of us don't feel the same.
So the question is, why do many black men feel politically marginalized by the Democrat and the Republican Party? And that's what I want us to go, specifically those parties. Why do you feel that those parties are not speaking to your issue?
The Democrats feel, not just here locally, I'm just saying when I say Democrats and Republicans, I'm talking on a national level, not a local level, because I feel like our Democratic Party does a lot to help out for the blacks in the community when it's time to run, things like that, jobs, and things like that. But from what I see, is the hardest thing is we don't have a lot of resources in our community, whether we live in the suburbs or live in the city of Cleveland. The problem is they don't see us as a value. And this is my opinion. They don't see us as a value. So as a Black man and dealing with other Black men, when I ask them about voting, why should they come out to vote if they're not seen as a valuable resource to the community?
So let me break the question down a little deeper for us. The question is more, do you see they speaking to them? Just say most Democrats, are they speaking the language that African American men like? So are they speaking our language? Are they speaking the language we want to hear? Do you think they speak out and reach out to us more so the Democrats versus Republicans, or either one?
For me, man, I think that the Democrats have missed out or are missing out on a really beautiful opportunity. Because most Black people are with the Democratic Party. Most Black people feel a connection there. But it feels like the Democratic Party is taking advantage of that.
Okay.
And as a result of it, even though Democrats have been in power, the fact is that we don't feel like we've got anything out of our support for the Democratic Party. It doesn't feel like they're more wealthier. It doesn't feel like they have held institutions responsible for taking care of us. There would seem to be more judges. Where we had the Republicans in, they're clear about what it seemed to be. It seemed that they're clear about how they feel about us as Black people. But the Democrats who say they love us or with us don't seem to fight as hard for us as the Republicans fight against us.
What specific action should political candidates take to address the distrust in Black men towards the political system?
Forums like this, getting to know your audience a whole lot more, actually coming out to speak, and actually going to where we are at and meeting us. I believe those are some actions that should be taking place. Figuring out, like you said, how can we level the playing field with elected officials with the laws, like what type of legislation, being part of the legislation process. How can we be a part of the legislation process? Not just having lobby firms go in, lobbying on our behalf. How can we have a voice within the party working on those things?
As a councilman, and you're a new councilman, Luke, and you out there in Richmond Heights, one of the suburbs of the city, what you feel that as a political person you can do?
The disconnect is when we don't trust, as African American men, we don't trust our politicians. Disconnect is where they'll come out, like what Rashir said earlier. The politicians and the candidates, they'll come out during the campaign race. And then after the campaign race, once they got their positioning and where they at, they disconnect and they need to stay more hands-on. They need to stay more visual, and they need to stop so much just lip talking during the political races and come out there and really listen and really, like, perfect example, when Bashir won Ward 7, he didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk. Once he became a Ward 7 councilman, he was continuously in the community, continuously talking with his residents. All the talking and no show, that's what make African American men, that's what make African American communities, period, not want to be bothered with this political scene, period. We get tired of always coming out and we hustle and we're doing what we need to do to get things better for our communities. And we're entrusting ourselves with this person that we call the representative of our community. But as soon as this person gets to where he needs to be, the phone numbers change. The addresses look even different. You don't even hear from these people no more until the next time it's time to vote again. Now, that's where we having a problem with a lot of our political, civil leaders, whatnot, because it's the disconnect of leaving us stranded once we do the job that we need to do. So when you see that enough times, you get so tired of it, then you want to give up. And so that's why it comes a time where African Americans just say, I'm not even voting because my vote don't even matter.
So let me ask the question this way then. Why is that only seem to be happening for African American men when African American women are the largest voting bloc for any Democrat and Republican? African American women is the largest voting bloc that's out there. So it seems like that women seem to have more engagement than African American men. Why is that?
White African American men aren't trusted by white society. And so that's why I think where the problem comes at white America, they trust Black women more than they trust Black men. And that sentiment is almost in reverse with how African Americans feel about white America. They don't trust us and we don't trust them. And now it's a situation where we all got to get together and try to come up with a solution to where we can find a better good, to where we can try to trust each other more in today's society, because this is a systematic situation that happened to us. And you can almost see why African American men don't trust white America. We can go all the way back almost into biblical day and see the system that been put in place to keep African Americans and Africans, period, behind the so-called black ball. Man, we got a problem. We got a real problem. And it goes even deeper, I believe, than Republicans and Democrats. And until we get that situation put together, it's going to always be this distrust and disconnect between African Americans and white America.
That's the whole word right there. Because now you going into the root of the issue. Politics are enforcement on white supremacy. And the black man is going to always be, going to be the target. And as you look throughout history, at least American history, when it comes to black people, the system has always expressed to black women that the black man is not easy.
And demonize them, even demonize us to our own women.
Exactly.
And the crazy part about all that is that as time been going along, it's almost touching home with our black women, because they actually starting to believe that they don't need us. I don't want to get here and change that. I want to change the narrative.
The key has always been the destruction of the black family. And the system has, in some cases, been victorious and tricking some of our sisters into believing that their independence is greater than the independence of the black family. It's like, I'm a vote, and I still got issues with child support, depending on who we are, whether it's city, county, statewide, or federal. There's things that governments can do that can make sure that black people have better opportunities. Locally, they can do better things, and making sure that you have, whether it comes to our housing or making sure that our safety forces reflect the community. There's things that can be put in place in every aspect. But unfortunately, we just don't see it. We just don't feel it. And if it's happening, we would like to hear about it prior to you asking for our vote.
Yeah. As you say that, what do you think a politician can do or the elected can do to gain stronger relationship with Africans?
Citywide, man, on a local level, black men need opportunities, need jobs. They're small business owners. They need opportunities as far as local funding. They need to be able to become contractors on these multi-million-dollar deals that are taking place. We need to see black men and black women in higher roles within these institutions as administrators. You may say, how does politics work? Well, it plays a part because if somebody want to build something as a city, we say, and much respect to Fannie Lewis, who put this in place, the state ended up fighting against it and removing it, but there was something called the Fannie Lewis Law, which made sure that a certain percentage of construction work or a certain percentage of jobs had to go to minorities. All right, these are the set asides. So now the Ohio Supreme Court fought against it and then struck it down. So the Fannie Lewis Law no longer exists statewide, but locally the city can decide to do it. Now, if you have a majority city council that's black, you have a black mayor, you have these blacks who are all in positions, why aren't black people thriving in this community? Why doesn't there have been a shift of wealth to our community? So not just white supremacy, but also the consequences of white supremacy is black silence.
We have a black Supreme Court justice who don't believe in affirmative action. Look at how that works. You know what I mean? And a lot of people feel that he got his job almost to affirmative action, and you don't support affirmative action where African Americans should be a part of most of these contracts that's going on across America. We well enough, good enough to be a part of it when it came time to pick cotton. Right. So how come we can't be part of it when it's time to get paid? It's weird to me.
How do you guys feel that the economic hardships, such as rising costs and job instability, influence black men's decisions on whether to vote? Yeah, the economy is a big reason why African American men are not voting, even though unemployment is at a record low as far as African American men, as well as unemployment period is at an all-time low.
Yes, from what I've been hearing, a lot of partners, I've been hearing some people say they're going to vote for Trump just on the strength of the stimulus package. Some people were able to take advantage of getting funds from stimulus.
But that wasn't a Donald Trump thing.
I know, but that's the narrative that's.
Let's talk about that narrative of our community being totally uninformed, which is the biggest reason why I believe we have most of the apathy in our community is because of our community not being educated enough. And when we say that, I'm really talking about the city of Cleveland proper in that conversation. Because when we talk about the city of Cleveland proper, that is where Councilman Bashir just was telling me earlier where he was teaching in high school here. And many of us, other students know that the education level for the average person in the city of Cleveland is less than high school almost. And when we talk about the average amount of money that a person in the city of Cleveland makes, the average income is like $25,000 a year. So when you get into all of those aspects of that, I want to, from your perspective, I hear what you said, but when you say that a lot of that is misinformation and a lack of education themselves about what, and even if the education is for them, are they grabbing it and truly can understand it? And do we blame that on our leaders that our people can't understand what they're missing or not really?
It's a mixture. It's a mixture. Responsibility lies on both parts. It lies on the part that as a community we should be more educated, but it also lies on those who are in those positions who really rely on our ignorance. Because if more people went out and vote, a lot of people who are in office right now wouldn't be in office. Mm-hmm. So they benefit off of the ignorance of it. You have some politicians here locally who they'll talk to one community member about raccoons and groundhogs, but they'll talk to this other person about multi-million dollar government. Right? Mm-hmm. Do we have a responsibility as residents? Without a doubt, we sure do. But we also don't know what we don't know. So we rely upon the elected officials to bring us information that we don't know. Then let us make our choice.
When you're dealing with a suburban community in opposed to a African American inner city community, there's different issues that go along. See, inner city, you got real stuff. Well, now I'm a inner city born and raised kid, and I moved out to the suburbs. And being in those two, being able to see the two different worlds, the things that's really serious in suburban America, if you was a inner city person, you would think of as this is bullshit. Y'all are spoiled and entitled and privileged up here, and just because a squirrel run across your front yard and get crapped up in your chimney, the world's finna end. In the inner city, man, they will probably laugh at it and tell you, man, figure it out. But in suburban America, these are their issues. Deers in the front yard or foxes up under your porches. But in the inner city, you got to deal with real crime, kids killing kids, drugs. And a lot of that stuff don't go on out in the suburbs. It's a totally different situation, man.
But in the suburbs, when we talk, let's keep it to African American men voting. So when we talk about voting and African American men out there in your community where there's more Republicans than there would be in the city of Cleveland, how do you feel African American men in the suburbs and out in your area are seeing this voting trend of African American men looking to vote outside of the Democratic Party?
Yeah, African American men out in the suburb areas, they tend to vote more because, so to speak, most of them, a lot of people that come that's living in African Americans that live in the suburbs, they're from the inner city. Mm-hmm. So what they wanted when they moved to the suburbs, they wanted more for their families. Mm-hmm. Those African Americans are the more conscious-minded African Americans. They wanted more. They read more. Mm-hmm. They see more, and they want to know more. So they'll come out to council meetings, and they'll come to get educated from their political advisors or their political representatives. They're constantly in contact. They don't wait on their councilman or their councilwoman to come to them. They'll find their way to them. And so it's more of an intimate dialogue in the dialect with the suburbians than it is, because the disconnect in it's just like a lot of inner city. It's a real life distrust, and they got good reasons for it. But in the essence of what Rashid was saying, they rely on some of the ignorance of inner city African Americans to not want to know, to not want to understand what's going on in their community.
Give an example. You guys say that they depend on the ignorance. How do they do that?
We vote as African Americans. We tend to just vote. Instead of listening to what the candidate's saying or what the issues is at hand, we only feel like, because I'm black, I'm supposed to vote Democrat. Do you even take the time to even listen to what the candidates is even saying? Now, I'm not saying I'm a Democrat, but I voted Republican before because the simple fact of the matter is I didn't believe that what a Democratic candidate was saying would benefit me and my community to that point.
And the reason why I bring that up is that I think that goes both ways, because we do give Black folks a choice, and they have a choice. When they vote for councilmen, when they vote for mayor, when they vote for judges, when they vote for anything else, they got a choice. And it's not based off of ignorance. It's based off of who came to me, who I felt I wanted to vote for, who that person was. And when I get ready to vote for my councilman, you run it. I'm just an average citizen. I'm going to vote for that person of my choice. So I think the ignorance that we talk about, I don't know if it's so much when you say they do it on purpose. Is it on purpose, or is it just the way the community is? And is it just the way our Black community is? Even though we have Black folks up here who doesn't vote, because again, most of the African Americans move from the inner city to the suburbs, and voting is just another thing. So we got apathy there just as much as that, but you got more of it in the city of Cleveland. Your ward, for example, was one of the lowest voting wards in the city of Cleveland for a year. Yours in Ward 5. With all the work and everything you did over the years, how did you get that?
When people are going through real life issues and not seeing how it can affect them, they just try to get by. And it's our job as elected officials to be able to say, this is how you're able to get by. And then once they open up their consciousness, then they understand. If somebody may have wanted to get some land and they didn't understand the process, they were told that if I just move along 20 years, that I now own it. That's not the case. This was like the hood myths in the city of Cleveland. So it was up to me as an elected official, having the connections, having the knowledge, having the understanding, in order to get that to let them know what to do. I give you an example. Anyway, I tried to turn it into the Muhammad Ali Recreation Center. I tried to change the name of it. And boy, oh boy, I got phone calls and emails from people all across the country. And I wanted to do it because for a couple of different reasons. One, the Black people used to be in that area. But that was like a sleeping giant because I got so many emails and messages of people that mattered to me, right? So what I'm saying is that until people see what really matters to them, everyone can continue to have the same mindset, the same understanding.
You would think that if you were doing all of that for the people in your community and you were going to change that the people in your community would have been more engaged, even when it didn't get done. I'm sure you got letters from all over the country, but we live right here. 28,000 people live in your ward. You would think that out of that, you would have had some of those people who would have came out and said, you know what, we support that and we want to do it this way. And it was important to them. And it also didn't resonate into votes either, because you tried to utilize that as a tool and it didn't work out. This conversation is all about how we can increase African American.
You can't talk about voting without understanding the language of what people are going through in those areas. And as you said, historically, not just my 4 years, there's always been an issue around voting in the city.
Correct.
Even with the work I was doing, people still have that same attitude. But when they tried to do some other things, they did show up. When I wanted to do food, or when I wanted to build this, they came out for the different reasons. So the struggle that we experience in the city, we pick and choose what we want to stand up for, and especially when it impacts our everyday lives.
And being a barbershop owner, man, you get to hear a lot of different things of why Black men don't vote, and basically, it's a really tough situation to give Black men. Man, Black men is so hard to make understand how important voting is that we had a program. We in the barbershop, you'll hear guys and say, man, you vote? No. Why you ain't vote? Man, my vote don't count no way. And I sit in the barbershop, man, on a regular basis. And I'm trying to tell these dudes that, man, listen, even if you feel like your vote don't count, I feel like you disrespecting people before you that gave you the privilege, because it's a privilege to vote. But when you're talking to African American men in a barbershop, man, some of the answers of why you didn't vote is so bizarre and crazy that you, man, not one of the candidates we voted for, man.
It goes back to what you were saying earlier, like in the first couple questions, the family dynamic, the education piece, If the woman is the head of the household, you have a split household. The man's out working, so he can pay for child support or do whatever he can't miss. And a lot of times, if you go to your boss and you work at the Marriott or something like that, and you're like, hey, boss, I need to take off and go vote, they're going to frown upon you taking off that time to go vote, to go do it. Because us as men, we juggling so many different things in time of the day. We got to keep our job. So a lot of times, I'm not saying all the aspects, but majority of the people that's in this Cleveland dynamic, they work in different jobs and doing whatever, or they're entrepreneurs and they can't leave.
So we vote.
I'm not using that as an excuse, but I'm saying that's some of the things that they will say when you say, why I didn't vote?
Yeah.
Those are some of the conversations.
I'm gonna go. We're gonna move on to the next topic. I know that I helped this man right here run for office twice, and both times we read on election day, we got out and we went because this dude believed that these youngins and as he called them, and these folks in Cleveland on the east side, the folks he's still gonna argue me to death on this podcast about that these guys were 100% in. And we went out there on election day. And I watched this man's face get cracked a few times when he went up to folks and he asked them, hey, did you vote today? Oh, yeah, I'm going to do it. B. I'm going to get you going and this and that. Then he'll ask them the trick question. Hey, did you vote for Obama? And they say no. And when they said no, it wasn't because they didn't vote against. They wouldn't register to vote, just like they wouldn't register to vote now. He saw them maybe 5 or 6 times along the campaign road because they were standing on the same spot here every day, and they didn't do it. And the same thing happened again when he ran the second time. So again, my
I
thing.
had other stories about people
Who did?
It was the first time.
You did? Yeah. And so it's possible, like you say, with African, and I'm only making that point to say the African American men. It's just like you say, you sit here, you listen to them. It's just a harder sell. Maybe some of those reasons, what you saying, Kevin, got something to do with it. Could be the fact that the polling location just wasn't next door to my house.
I find it highly disrespectful for African Americans not to vote every election.
Correct.
Because if you look back in the history of how we even got this privilege to vote and all of the lies, black and whites, and it still has to be signed in by a president every so many years. So it's not even a law that we even got the right to vote. So it's a privilege at this particular time. And I would have almost thought when we got an African American president that he would have made that his first priority. It's been too many years that why is it's still a privilege for Africans Americans to be able to vote. And we still have to get permission every so many years by a president.
That could be one of the major reasons where you got some of the apathy. But I like to believe that it ain't enough of us who even understand that say that's not the reason why I'm not voting. Because that's some more education stuff that you have to look into, to dig into to find out.
Should I have to understand that for the elected officials to fight for that?
Because you got a Republican Senate.
There was time that we had a majority House and majority Senate.
It was a time where they had that. I'm not here to defend that because I don't know. I'm just saying that.
Right.
So let's move on to the next one. I want to stay on our point about voting.
It seems
that Democrats should have done, and I believe that's one of our questions. We know that the Democrats and Republicans have the game. We're gonna talk about that, but I don't want to be the person who says I got the answers for all that. What is the most significant issues that black men are feeling are being ignored by public officials, the system, the government? What is that one thing that you believe? We start with you, Conwell.
Yeah, jobs and education is being ignored. Like I was saying earlier, like me having a nonprofit, WSG Inc., we go to a lot of places to see what the school boards are doing. We go in and we're fighting visually to get the kids when they're at the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. They don't want to get kids earlier into learning financial literacy, learning things as of being civic engagement and voting. They don't want to spend the time to do that because I feel like they get certain type of monies to dictate what type of program they have.
So let's talk about on the national level, because that's local. Coming up with African American men, what do you believe is the number one thing that the government should be doing to help improve African American men's lives?
The big issue is the overcriminalization of the prison system, and so many who are in jail for nonviolent offenses, they just can't consider it as an issue. But for someone else, it can be small businesses, it can be access to capital, these become an issue. And also, the system itself getting in the way of the progress of the family, particularly in situations like child support. But this is a big issue that Black men are facing, dealing with child support issues. Having a felony and not being able to get jobs as a result of the type of job or the type of funding. So these are some of the concerns.
You got home ownership, jobs, entrepreneurship. Man, we getting blocked out of trying to be owners of everything. It's systematically, and I feel like it happened. I had my credit score was at 800, and I literally was turned down. I'm sitting up here like, I didn't know if I was being discriminated against or what happened. And these are some of the things that make you frustrated with America in our society, because of when you're doing everything the right way and you still being turned down, you got to try to figure out what just happened here. And you hear these rumors, and you listen to Brother Brashear and some of his Muslim podcasts, and they speak on stimulus, racism, and all of this stuff. But then when you got all your stuff in order as an African American man, and you still get denied for something that you've already been approved for before, I'm talking about a refinance, not to buy the house. I can almost imagine what African American men has to go through to even own a house, or to buy the house, or even open up a storefront business, because I've done it all.
I want to get down into what we really mean when we say that. When we say that, what system can the government put in place that would have helped you be able to refinance your house better? But what could he done to make your process easier for you to get your house refinanced?
More African American programming. Tell the banks that, you know what I'm saying, if this credit score is good and he has the income for this, and if he default on this loan, or he have some type of financial issue or whatnot, then we got that. We'll have with that.
FHA though? VA, FHA?
Well, evidently they're not pushing the programs, and they're not pushing the program well enough, because it's still happening to African American men that's got everything in order. And I'm an example of it myself.
That's the thing. Okay, even on the federal side, that's when you have local politicians who have knowledge about these type of things, who are meeting with the local banks. Because when I was in council, I would meet with the heads of banks and say, what are you doing with your CRA, your Community Investment Account? Like, what are you doing within the community? For us who are elected officials who have the knowledge, that's when we have to be able to translate it to the community about what programs are available, and making sure that those programs are
right. You gotta be willing to answer and talk to these people. And if you got at least one person who want to be educated on something that got to get done in our communities, you got to at least talk to that one person, man. You can't stall them out and run and hide. And that's what some of our elected officials will do once they get elected into office. And that's where I think a lot of the disconnect will come in with the African American men in our elected officials. It's just feel like, man, I keep telling the story, but I ain't getting no answers. And after a minute, that's when you keep telling the story so many times, you get frustrated and just say, hell, man, I ain't got shit to say to them. So we gonna keep the same energy. When it comes time to vote, I'm gonna keep the same energy you had when I came to you. And that's what a lot of them get it from. Let's keep this energy rolling. Since you don't see me, I don't see you.
Do you think that the economic promises from candidates are not enough to win over black males, or is there a deeper sense of disenfranchisement that needs to be addressed? Do we really think that when a candidate comes in here and says all of that stuff, and you guys believe it, do you think that's enough, or do you think there's something really deeper?
The history of what this government has meant to black people. Every year we're reminded that the government has something to do with the assassination of Dr. King. Every year we're reminded about Malcolm and how Muhammad Ali had to fight against him. All of our freedom fighters, black people are Juneteenth, everywhere. We're constantly reminded of the government attack on us as black men. So when you ask the question, what can the government do? I give you a perfect example, just locally, so people can understand. We had these ARP dollars from the American Rescue Plan dollars that came in. Cleveland got $500 million. Right? I was a part of that council that got it. But the east side of Cleveland still hasn't been invested in ARP. Look at $200 million targeted to the east side of Cleveland. How could that have impacted the community? So just how we get excited about the presidential election, but as a community, we should be more focused on who's our local judges, you understand? Who is our local council members? Who is our mayor? Because that impacts us quicker than who the president is. So I just think that locally, whether it's the mayor or city council, dollars that are coming in, federal dollars that are coming in, as local officials, we have to do a better job of communicating how to take advantage of it. So when I was in council, if you built in my neighborhood, you couldn't just build in a certain part without also putting resources to help other houses that were around in that neighborhood. So if you just built this $50 million project, we need certain dollars to be put aside to take care of Grandma Johnson's roof, Grandpa Joe's porch, so then people can then feel that the growth is happening around them, that they also taking part in.
So what economic reform do you think can be gained to support, that can be done to gain support for African American men?
I do know, as far as economic support, us, like you said, it does start with the local level. And working to making sure a Democrat is in there is very important. We still got to fight to get the people to come out and vote, because when that money's being passed on the federal level, if we got somebody like a Republican gets in, I'm not going to say the guy's name, but you get a Republican to get in, and we got those dollars, they can get snatched up and moved around. So it's very important for us to fight to get what we need in the right system to come in, so we can have people to fight to get the money so they can be allocated in the right areas. So when the money goes to the state, it won't evaporate, it disappear. Because if we have Republicans in certain positions, the money can get legs and disappear. So you want to keep that structure, but then also too, you want to empower people in the community to know what's going on. So why it's important to vote. So I think better messaging within all parties need to come out to understand on economic front, being probably one of the most important things, why it's important to come out to vote. So we can have an opportunity to get dollars when it's coming across.
Councilman, what you think from an economic from not just the city of Cleveland, because I know that's where our heart is, but your constituents out there in Richmond Heights, some of the people you listening to, and others in business. Is there any economic reforms that you believe that can be done that can gain more support from African American males?
First of all, we got to educate our African American males. There are plenty of programs, but we got to teach us how to go after the programs and how to utilize the programs. For instance, trying to own your own business. There are plenty of programs out there that help us get the money. But the problem is how to get the money. We're not educated enough to understand on how to run a business, to even create the business. So we got to get our leaders to teach us more about going down to like the Urban League or even the representative in the Urban League, to get them to come out and let the inner city communities and know that, man, it's here. It's here. But what you got to do, you got to know how to get it from us. And that means you have to go and get your paperwork. See, everybody will own a business, but you don't know how to structure the business. Now, once you get taught on how to run the business and how to structure the business, then now we talking a whole nother ballgame. And that's where it starts at for real. But man, what we got to do is stop bitching so much, man, and get out here. Because it's like everything else, man. Ain't nobody going to help. Nobody that don't want to help themselves. And that's why they think that we're a joke. Not just white America. All of the other ethnic groups that's in America think the black men are a joke, because sometimes if you look at black women think we're a joke. Yeah, if you look at us, we are a joke, man. You know what I mean? Because we want it all, but we won't educate.
More, I'm gonna say, Councilman, we are divine people, man. I feel you, but what we overcame, man, there ain't been no people like us on the entire planet in the history of the world.
But we gotta stop. We gotta stop, man.
This system, man.
I know it's a systematic problem, but when did we stop? The Jews been enslaved. Every ethnic group in this world been enslaved at some point, but somewhere or the other, I understand we got our just due, and we do deserve everything that this country got to give us back because we basically put it on our shoulders. But it's going to come to a time that we're going to have to start burdening some of our own responsibilities and get that monkey up off our back and quit making ourselves look like we don't want this thing, because, man, to just keep saying what we want and not getting out there and figuring it out and making ourselves, because, man, listen, we get in our communities, man. Here's a perfect example, man. One day I was riding down Superior. I was riding down 185th. I live in Richmond Heights. And so it was a car, about 4 or 5 young African-American men was in this car. So we coming out of Richmond Heights and we coming down into Cleveland, right? So here's the thing. These young boys, no sooner than we passed the Cleveland border, they just start throwing stuff out the car. Just jumping out, throwing. Now, they wouldn't do it right up on top of the hill because I don't know if they felt like the penalties are more severe up there, or it just don't matter because we're in the inner city of Cleveland. Mm-hmm. But even animals know not to throw. So we could keep blaming the white man for all our downfalls and all our mistakes, but somewhere or the other, I almost would have threw the trash out on the top of the hill before they got home and threw it out. You know what I mean? It's sometimes we self-inflicting wounds and we won't take the ability or the time to say, man, when are we going to accept some of our own downfalls to create a better?
Me personally, I have shifted my marketing business over to just really helping the kids. First off, we was just starting on, hey, this would have been a good business, something to do with my son. But when I'm out here with all my son's friends, baseball, stuff like that we're doing, I see that they don't have the mental capacity, they don't have the father figure. So what we've been doing is implementing the entrepreneurship program that we have in camp. First ever sports and entrepreneur camp together. And what they're learning is not just also how to get a business, like we're showing them EIN numbers and stuff like that, but the mindset of credit. Yeah. We were able to get 380 kids last year. We have 1,000 business owners registered through this company called Block. We've got 1,000 business owners. Now they're pledging to get their kids involved, that they all have a business, so that when they get older, they won't have to go ask somebody for a job.
I think it's important for us to educate our kids on how important credit worthiness is and teach them that these other ethnic groups are starting their kids off from day one on being not working for anybody, but owning and having people work for you. That's the state of mind that we got to get our kids into also. Man, damn working for other people, man. You figure out a way to sell something on your own first. And if that don't work out, then it's okay to go work for somebody. Come on, man.
One thing I believe that this damn pandemic did, it made everybody believe that they can be an entrepreneur. We can't find a workforce out here because everybody believes that they're a boss. Nobody wants to work anymore. Nobody wants to be employees. They all want to be the boss. Some of them are young, and it's a lot of experience. And Mook, you said yourself, man, it's growing in the business is experience. There's nothing. You can go into college, and that professor is going to tell you every book thing you can. But until you get out here and you open up these doors yourself, and you pay these light bills, and you figure this stuff out for yourself, it's hard. Right now, society, social media, and everything else has made everybody feel as if they can be one. You talk to people, you see them online. I helped this company raise $1 million. I helped this person do this. I can help you grow your business too. And you talk to them and you ask them, who's on your client list? And they don't have nobody. They have never helped anybody.
I've been in this 30 years, man, and I'm still learning.
So, brothers, we ain't going to get caught up. We got to get to the juicy stuff. So I'm going to ask one more question along these lines, and then we're going to move on. And that is, what strategy do you believe is most effective in engaging these young black voters? I'm going to start with Conwell, Bashir, then you move, then we're going to get going, okay? Engaging young black men. We know that when we talking to y'all, talking to 18 and over that are eligible to vote, that we all know are less engaged than even the brothers who should be more engaged. What's the strategy you believe that can be utilized to get those guys involved?
One, like you said, is first the judges engaging. Just looking at that trial, was it Young Thug that's on trial right now? Just seeing it's important. If you have a certain type of judge that you voted for, and you go on a trial against someone that you want to have some type of, you want to be judged by your peers. So you go in, one, the judicial system and something to do with the police, I feel like that's speaking their language because we are hunted. When we get pulled over by the police, we tell our sons, like, hey, when you pull over, it's a certain type of way. We got to answer to the police when we get pulled over, just in safety. So when we send our 18-year-old black men out, it's a different type of way they have to move in the world. No other race has to tell their kid to act a certain type of way with the police. So I believe policing issues would energize kids to be able to come out and vote when they're 18 because their life depends on it. Not just the economic down the road, but what's most important is their literally life depends on it. Whether they get a felony or not, whether what's going to happen to them if they do get a felony. All those things play a part in the judicial process.
Yeah, on the strategy side, it just depends upon the group that you're talking to. In my neighborhood, when I would do expungement clinics, it would be jam-packed. There'd be hundreds of people that would come out and get their records expunged. So when you're marketing to people, you have to understand their language. In my neighborhood, expungement clinics do well. Helping brothers. Right now, I'm working with about to really help the seniors because they've been getting scammed. These are some of the issues that we're facing in our neighborhood.
The biggest issue is that most people are afraid to actually get out there to talk to these young cats and have that engagement with them. How important is that?
That's very important, man. Very important. You gotta be hands on. You can't be scared on, man. You gotta get out there and you gotta talk to them. You gotta be in their faces and you gotta sound just like them sometimes. And that might seem a little crazy and whatnot, but sometimes you can only connect people in the way they know how to be connected. And coming out in your business suits and your nice slacks or whatever, that don't read. Sometimes you got to take that stuff off. You might even have to put on a pair of Jordans or a pair of Yeezys, man, if that's what makes them comfortable around you to even hear what you got to say. And that's basically it. I can't get long-winded on this situation. It's just about getting out there and gaining their trust by all means necessary. And if that means changing your outfits, then that's what it means. If that means changing your language, then that's what it means. You got to speak their language. I got a barber that cut in my shop. His name Guy. He gets out there with boxing gloves. When he get out there, he got programs where he go on, man. Since we tired of people just killing, young people just killing. Man, listen, how about killing these boxing gloves, man? Since you don't like him and you don't like him, how about y'all two get out there and just square this up? But like I say, man, I don't want to get too long-winded on the issue, but man, it's just about speaking a language and making them trust you as a person. And that's what the importance of it is.
All right, we're going to get in some speed rounds now so we can get up out of here. We're going to ask some questions and get some answers for you guys. Former President Donald Trump, who has a history of racial controversy, is now poised to win 20% of the black vote. What do you think is behind the shift of black male voters? And do you believe the poll at all? Let's start with Conwell.
The myth that is going on is Trump gave out all the money during that time. He passed over the laws of business. So I know that language is going on around, not just here in Cleveland. Some of my business partners trapped in LA, a couple people in Atlanta, and a couple people in Miami where I do business with. All of them are saying they're leaning more towards Trump just because of that, because of the business aspect of it. They don't care less about the feelings part of it. I don't care if you feel like whatever, you're going to call me a name, but on the money, I need this money to impact my family.
They feel like Donald Trump showed them the money. Oh man, they feel like that was the closest thing that African Americans gonna get to 40 acres and a mule with that pandemic money that came out. And besides the pandemic money, they feel like he signed the crime bill that let a lot of African American men that was doing life in federal penitentiary go. And they felt like that was a situation where Obama could have did that. Now Obama did it, right? But the stigma is, or the belief is, that Trump did it.
Yeah,
and that's what a lot of it got to do with. They feel like Trump can't be racist as they making us believe he's racist, because racist white men don't let black men out of penitentiary. And that's a big one that comes up in the barbershop a lot.
The only difference is how people market it and how Donald Trump did a better job than Obama in taking credit for shit that he just didn't do. And he does it just like the stimulus checks and everybody. And the people who know that he's a con man sit back and they even know that it's con, and sometimes don't even say nothing. But it's purely that. But what's your thought?
My thought, KD, man, is that, okay, if Trump is a con man, what's Biden? What is Biden? You know what I mean? Yeah, he's president, and as a member of the Muslim community here in America, we definitely was told by President Biden that this genocide would have been over with.
Oh, that's talking about the war.
But you know what I mean?
No, we don't get into the war, bro. I'm just saying that's what you're saying.
Some people are supporting Trump because of them, but some people won't support Trump, so they're not going to support Biden. Mm-hmm. You have a group of people who feel that Biden time is done. And so you have some that's going to love Trump and support him. And I'm talking about people that don't even like voting, like you talk about. People who just from the neighborhood, like, I'm voting for Trump. I can relate to him more.
Real thing, man.
Yeah,
a lot of black people think that he keep it real.
But that's not
But you know how we think, and you know how it's a reality in our world. We like it real, and he bring it real. He'll tell us, I'm winning. Now, how many politicians tell they ugly and ain't gonna win?
But isn't that disrespectful?
It's disrespectful to some and
brilliant. No, it's flat out, no matter how it is. It wasn't even brilliant to nobody. It's flat out just disrespectful, right?
Is President Biden's crime bill disrespectful to our community? President Biden, he wasn't the president at the time, he was a senator. But the crime bill that he pushed. Yeah. Right? Yeah, that still affects our community. I know when people talk about the Democrats, they like to just talk about what the Republicans are not. But we got to talk about what the Democrats are. What they have done, the crime bill, that affects our community. There's certain aspects that President Obama, they've been a part of that impacts our community. That they don't want to address that. They just want to tell us what Trump isn't, but don't want to tell us what they've done.
Part of that is that Councilman Bashir Jones endorsed Cornel West, who is critical to both major parties. What do you think about his candidacy you believe resonates with black male voters?
He has a history of speaking up for our issues. He has a history of being a voice for the voiceless, which is a major part of it, that he's not a new face, a new voice. As we travel around the country and we go into the hoods of different cities, the people know exactly who we are, and they appreciate the work that we've done. He's talking about topics like reparations. He's talking about demilitarizing the police. He's talking about making sure that everyone has access to a home and the resources to purchase a home. But he's talking about white supremacy and how it shows up in political processes. These are all things that black people can relate to. Now, they may not go with him in droves because we've been programmed to either go Democrat or Republican. We look at him and we don't see a president. We see a philosopher, we see a teacher. For me, when we saw Donald Trump, we didn't see a president, but he became a president because it was his time. And I feel that this is the first time for me where I'm voting from my heart. I'm not voting politically. So I'm voting with the person that I believe speaks my language. And President Biden, Genocide Joe, and Donald Trump, who wants a civil war, I just can't, morally, I can't support either one of those candidates.
What about you, Conwell? What's your thoughts on Cornel West being in the race?
Vote with my heart, but logically, we already know what time it is. Like, on a national scale, it's either going to be left or it's going to be right. You have to make an educated decision when you vote what's most important in your household, knowing that he really didn't pass those financial things, Trump on the left, and also knowing about that crime bill back in the day with Joe Biden did. Now, you got to make the best decision for your family, and I believe that's how all voters should be. Best decision for your family, your community. So you have a right to vote, whether you agree or disagree, but just know why you vote.
What's your thoughts on Cornel West in the race? The possibility that we got a third candidate that could be in the race that can possibly make it a hardship for one of the candidates.
I haven't done a lot of research on his messaging and what Cornel's bringing to the presidential candidacy, but he is a credible African American man, and that will hurt the Democrats a little more than it will hurt the Republicans, because he will actually take some votes, I feel, from Biden, and will make it a little bit more easier for Trump to actually gain the White House. He's going to take some very well needed African American votes because his credibility. I haven't researched his message. I haven't heard much from him, but I do know that there are African Americans that don't need to hear what he's saying, but they know that he is a very credible African American leader, and they will go and vote for him just on that assumption alone. So he'll hurt the Democrats and Biden.
They could team up, do a a vice president, president type of thing. That would be an ideal situation because then, like you said, it wouldn't be splitting votes. But just on a number standpoint thing and a dollar standpoint, he who has the goal makes the rule. He who has the bank, that's just what it is.
I believe. Given this for you, Councilman, given your experience in community engagement, how do you address the political disconnect and mistrust among Black men in the community?
I'm just trying to talk to them. I go out, I'm in my communities, I'm walking and I'm talking and being a new councilman, this is exactly what my campaign was about. And this is what I'm trying to, actually, to be really honest with you, I'm really following the footsteps of my colleague here, Brashear Jones. He walked that walk, man. He talked that talk and he walked that walk. He was out there. He was in the beat. He was talking to his residents. He was doing for his residents. All that BSing and lip action, hold on to that. People tired of hearing all that. I mean, don't nobody want all that talk no more, man. People want to, that's one of the things that this giving Donald Trump actually a upped on by because he out there he talking that smack, man. And more than anything, you just got to be there. You got to be there, man. And you can't just be lip service. People tired of lip service, especially us as Black people.
Councilman Brashear Jones, how do you address the economic and social concerns of Black men who feel disenfranchised from the political process? How do you address the economic and social concerns of Black men?
We understand that white structural racism and how it's played out in the systems of America, from the financial system to the medical system, all these different systems is a real thing. They exist. Here in Cleveland, you can go to the major institutions and you'll find most Black people valeting cars. So people of power in the city have to make sure that we're being proper translators. It gives people opportunities to better their economic situation, which will better their social situation. So as a political figure, or a person who has some level of influence, we have to make sure that when we are in those back rooms, that we're ensuring that those who are the least of us are being represented. And sometimes the unfortunate part is that corporate America, corporate Cleveland, corporations in general, they thrive off of the ignorance of people. We have to give them knowledge. Once we give them knowledge, they'll do the right thing by it. If they don't know, then they have to either search for it or we have to come and give it to them. We can't drag them.
You gotta want it. They gotta want it.
Councilman Conwell, how can community leaders effectively address the political, economic concerns of Black men in your field of marketing and business? Is there something you feel they can do?
For one, I've been seeing for a while is being able to bridge the gap on social media, right? We need to use this tool, come together as a community, like you're using this platform on podcast, getting people to subscribe to get more information. I believe we're not using the tools at 30 seconds with AI, and us getting that information at a young age help us come together. So what I believe we should do, just as a community grassroots, is get together on social media a whole lot more strategic versus just posting something out or sending stuff out. People on the Cleveland Remembrance page, whenever a death is happening, but when voting is happening, it's crickets. So I feel as us using the tools that's out there more effectively, I think we can have a brighter future to do that.
Councilman Robinson, question to you is, do you feel that Trump's recent outreach efforts towards Black men are genuine or merely performative, and why?
We know that Trump is an actor. We know that he knows how to put on a show. I am a Democrat and I look at the facts and I try to understand it. And I don't think that Trump will fit our political aspects at this particular moment. Even though our president ain't doing a good job at bringing his message to the forefront, this election here is going to be a classic one. But it's hard to believe a man to almost order insurrection on the Capitol and and look for votes and he's a convicted felon and it's just a mess. This is so what do you do in this election, man? Really though. We got one president that can't stand upright for long. And then you got one dude who can't stand upright for long. America.
For Dr. Cornell West,
man, listen. I'm gonna have to start looking at some of his literature, man.
Let me give you a question. How old is Cordell West? This is as old as these guys. Same age, right?
I don't know, man. Biden 80s.
But at least he can walk and stand up.
Yeah, he can do that. This for you, Cop Jones. In what way do you think both Biden and Trump has failed to address concerns of black males, voters?
We want to hear our voices. You might have these little White House groups that black men are talking, but we don't see it on a grassroots level. We don't feel it on a grassroots level. And I consider myself to be someone who is educated about the process, and I have a hard time. So imagine this brother who's illiterate, he has a felony, he has this situation, that situation, the barriers that he has, it becomes tough, man. Black men, mental health is a major issue, right? Mental health is a major issue. Access to capital is a major issue. As I said, the overcriminalization, the jail system, just that whole system of the injustice system. All these things have to be fixed. They have to be acknowledged. And the Democrats have had the power in the past to do something about it, and we just don't find them having the same oomph for black men as they have for other groups in this community. But we don't see them having the same fervor for the Jewish community as they do for black men, the community, as they do for black men. No other group is being looked at and respected and left off of being taken care of like black men. But when we come up and say, hey man, so we're not doing this for you because you're black, but we're doing this because I'm not the president for black people, I'm the president for all people. It's like only when it comes to us do these type of responses take place.
Who the hell is in charge of getting the African American park done down here on East Boulevard? That's disrespectful. Now that is totally disrespectful, man. Now, everybody's park down there been redone and done twice over, but we can't get our representation and our people in our communities to get that park finished, man.
African American culture. And they made progress from what they said.
Now how can we bind together to get our social problems together, man? And we can't even bind together enough to get our park created.
And I'm gonna tell you what's really sad about that. And we're gonna get back on because these things go. I got you, Latif. So we gotta wrap up. I was watching Channel 8 News, and you guys been down there to see the new Vietnamese garden that they put down there. There's a woman, she got a statue. She talked about how they put it on the boat and had lost pieces. She had a whole big old story about this thing. They traveled thousands and thousands of miles. And if you go down there to the garden, it's the last garden before you get to the freeway on your right-hand side. Y'all gonna look for it. You can't miss it. It's a big ivory statue. Beautiful. And I sat there and I watched that and I said, wow, this woman raised all this money here amongst a group of people that's a smaller group than African American people here in this country to raise the money to go all the way over to some mountain that she said they pulled this all of this stuff out to bring it thousands and thousands of miles here, losing pieces of it and everything. And they got that thing up, man, and it's beautiful. And to your point, we still don't have a garden.
That's highly.
I know I had at least 10 years or 15 years of history of people knowing, working with elected officials like you and others beforehand with that committee trying to get it done. But that's not why we're here. I'm going to get us up out of here. We've been here a long time. I'm going to ask the number one question that's on everybody's mind when we get out of here. We're going to close on this one. For you, Mr. Bashir John.
You know he quick on this.
He's been waiting on this. What's your thoughts on Biden administration, foreign policy practice in Gaza and impact on black voters? I ain't talking.
What's wrong with you, Councilman? At first, man, I tried my best to keep my thoughts about that whole Gaza situation, but unfortunately, it's a horrible situation that's going on in Gaza, man. The way the world is turning blind eye to what the Jews is actually doing to some of those Palestinians. Those people over there almost living in brick huts now, man, and it's sad that the world can find the justification on what's going on in there, and they can send millions and millions. We're gonna say not millions, billions of dollars to a country that seems to me to got all the money, and we sending even more and more support than. It's just it's a catastrophe, man. And I really believe that Biden should investigate more and ask the Jewish leaders to ceasefire and come on out of there, man. It ain't nothing else left over there, man. It's nothing. And it's sad that we only see one side. We're only seeing basically in the world one side of that war.
What'd you say, Conwell?
I think it's messed up, honestly. What I found out recently was the money that they withheld from the Russian government, that terror when you hold the money, sanctions. So that sanctions money that could have came over here to do something, they put that money back into the war. Like I just took your money. Hell, it could have solved a lot of problems over here. Economy, a whole lot of stuff. I'm gonna give this to Ukraine. After I already just laced you with a whole bunch of money. I seen that news fight, I was like, yo, I'm turned off on the whole situation. I don't even know what to really believe. For me personally, my personal opinion, I don't know what to believe. I believe genocide is wrong. I know that beef over there is real. And that's something that's been happening since biblical times. So that's the thing that's messed. I think they're fighting over land. And I don't know all the whole details of it. But I feel like it's all about money. And it's sad that lives are being lost about money.
How do you think it makes you feel as a voter and Joe Biden's position on how he's been handling it?
I feel like it's not good. It's not good at all. It's terrible. It almost makes you want to pivot to a corner at West. But in a situation of our voting aspect, it's left us with a left and a right. So my thing is, going back, we need to have some more talks and making a solution, figure out how we can become stronger economically so they can see us as valuable, so our vote is valuable, so they can start paying attention to us.
So, B, what's your thoughts on the way the president has handled this war and the impact on not just African American males in this electorate, but there is a huge Muslim, Palestinian, Lebanese community here in the United States, period, and you got some history from when you was down in Houston and doing stuff down there in Texas. So honestly, give me just a really good one. All jokes aside, what's your thing on how you believe the administration is handling this whole thing in Gaza and how it affects Black folks?
The largest Muslim contingency in America is actually African Americans. African American Muslims make up the largest percentage of Muslims in America.
Really?
So what you have is that this what's happening over there is affecting Black people because whether your cousins are Muslims, like family members, or some shape or form. The genocide that's taking place in Palestine is not different from the genocide that's taking place here in America, and particularly amongst Black men. And the over militarization of the Palestinians is the same over militarization that we see against Black people, particularly Black men. The same weaponry that you see being used in Gaza, it was used first against Black Americans. Like they get their practice here in the hoods of America, and they take that and utilize it in other places. From the surveillance, right? There's no country in the world that has greater surveillance than Israel and America. They are the greatest in surveillance. But they practice it here. They practice it in the mosques. They practice it in Black communities where you have cameras everywhere in our community under the guise of we want to be more safe, but it's really surveillance. As we've been telling people, the genocide that takes place in Palestine is no different from the genocide that's taking place here in hoods in America. And what I tell Black people is, if you go back and look at the Palestinian Liberation Army or PLO or Yasser Arafat, they all had very close connections with the Black Panther movement here in America. Right? Malcolm used to always say that our success will come also in the form of a free Palestine. So the Zionism is like white supremacy throughout the world, and it has an impact on people of color wherever in the world. So I guess the point I'm making is that President Biden, he just proved to us what we had already knew, which was This is not the United States of America. It's the United States of Israel. This is Israel right here. America is Israel. And as we've been expressing to Muslims, if you want to help India, if you want to help Palestine, if you want to help Congo, Sudan, you have to help them from America. There's nothing that President Joe Biden can do for some of us to ever get our support by the way that he's dealt with not just Palestinians, but how he's dealt with what's happening in Congo, what's happening in Sudan, what's happening any place where black and brown people are suffering. Look at how he has responded. But look at how he responded to Ukraine. If there was bombing taking place like the bombing that we see in Gaza, in Ukraine, look at America's response there in comparison to their response to what's happening everywhere else in the world, where white babies are not being killed. So this is the reality, man. I think it's unfortunate that we live in a country that even people who have good hearts don't want to say nothing about it. That's the situation we in.
I want to thank everybody for coming out on the show today. This is a real good conversation. The one thing I will ask you to do is really go out and get all the information that you need to make the best decision for yourself. We'll put links to everybody's information where you can go fact check some of this information for yourself, and so that you can tune in and look at and find out what you need to be to arm yourself to make the best decision on who you support for this upcoming election. And as always, we're encouraging everybody to vote. No matter who you decide to vote for, we want African-American men to take this to a new height, and we actually be the difference maker in this election. So until next time, I'm going to give everybody just a quick moment to say something on our way out. We're going to start with our host and owner of this establishment, Councilman Mook Robinson. You want to say a few words to the camera?
First, I want to thank you for bringing this panel and bringing this discussion to the Diamond Cut Barbershop. But first of all, I wanted to ask the African-American men and women to get out and vote this election. It's very important for the future of the United States, and it's very important for the future of your communities.
Conwell.
For having us. Seeing you fighting in DC, I went down there with my dad. You fighting for your community, keep up the good work. I want to say, please go out and vote. It's very important. You can find me at wakehustleburn.com or wakehustleburn.org. We are working with children. That's our passion, working with children and getting youth involved. And if we get them now, we'll have some chance to get them later to where they can have some economic.
Councilman Jones.
Hey, I'm looking at KJ right here.
Right there.
What up? What's happening? I want to say, man, much respect to KD Kendall, man, Lateef, man, for doing such an amazing podcast, and my brother, Councilman Robinson, man, who was so just proud of, man. He's always been a community leader, and just to see him elevate is just a beautiful thing to see, man. Kevin Conwell Jr. is always a pleasure. And I just want to say to everybody out there, man, make sure you get out and vote. Wherever you're going to vote for, whatever your opinion is, get out the stands, get on the court, and get in the game and let your voice be heard. There comes a time that silence becomes betrayal. Betrayal, in the words of Dr. King. Silence is betrayal. So you can't afford to be silent. You got to speak up.
Excellent. So we're going to have another one. We're shooting another one just next week on the 30th. So make sure you tune in and check that out. It's with the millennials. That one's going to be interesting. So make sure you tune in. Talk to you next week. Peace.
This is Strategic Moves with Ken Dow.